Hi again. In We Left Jehovah's Witnesses Personal Testimonies, Bill Cetnar is at the point at which he's resigning from Bethel. And the subhead is, I resigned from Bethel in the summer of 1958. I wanted to think things over. I had seen and experienced many things in my 8.5 years in Watchtower headquarters. I resigned from Bethel in the summer of 1958, and at that time I had no desire to take any positions in the society. Joan, that is his wife, Joan Cetnar, had completed her agreed term of service in Bethel, and she also resigned. I was asked if I wanted to be a district or circuit servant, but I refused both of these. I didn't even want to be a pioneer. I wanted to think things over, away from the pressures at headquarters. I had a number of doubts concerning the society as a result of my experiences at Bethel, but these did not cause me to turn away from the organization doctrinally. Rather, it was getting back into the Bible and checking out their teachings and finding them contradictory to the scriptures which brought this about. Joan and I were married in September of 1958. Our good friend, Colin Quackenbush, former editor of Awake, preached the sermon at our wedding. My father-in-law, Carl Howell, asked me what I wanted to do for a living. I answered, all I have been trained to do is to preach. He said that I could work on his farm, and Joan and I could have half of the house to live in. I accepted this offer and went to work on the farm, which was one of the finest in Pennsylvania. Carl and I got along beautifully, and I enjoyed the work. Gradually I got back into the witness work, and I finally agreed to be ministry school servant and then Bible study servant in the local congregation. And the next head is, I was disfellowshipped for making my position on blood transfusions known. My physical break from the Jehovah's Witnesses was precipitated when the grandparents of a young child who needed a blood transfusion asked me what I would do if my child required one. I answered that I would let the doctor decide. Because of this answer, the headquarters judicial committee called for me to report for a hearing at the Brodheadsville Kingdom Hall on the matter. That's Brodheadsville, B-R-O-D, Headsville, Kingdom Hall. The reason for my eventual disfellowshipping was the matter of blood transfusion. This is of special significance and should be explained in some detail. The July 1, 1945 issue of the Watchtower presented the ban on blood transfusions. The paragraph from the article is quoted in full. Quote, seeing then that the Most High and Holy God gave plain instructions as to the disposition of blood, in harmony with his everlasting covenant with Noah and all his descendants, and seeing that the use of blood that he authorized in order to furnish life to humankind was the use of it as a propitiation or atonement for sin, and seeing that it was to be done upon his holy altar or at his mercy seat, and not by taking such blood directly into the human body, therefore it behooves all worshippers of Jehovah who seek eternal life in this new world of righteousness to respect the sanctity of blood and to conform themselves to God's righteous rulings concerning this vital matter. End of quote. The transfusion ban was clear to my father-in-law and his cousin Hayden, for they had explained the society's policy to a sister in the congregation, May Altimos, who said that if she needed a transfusion, she would receive it. She was called on the carpet and told that if she took a transfusion, she could be disfellowshipped. What was really hypocritical was that in 1949, Joan's grandfather, William Kimmel, a member of the 144,000, received a blood transfusion, and her father, Carl Howell, the presiding minister, and her uncle, Hayden Howell, both gave blood and also encouraged neighbors to do the same. They did this even though they knew the grandfather had leukemia. When Joan's father was later confronted with this violation of God's righteous rulings, he stated that the doctrine was not very clear at the time. I replied, it wasn't very clear when the president of Jehovah's Witnesses and other leaders came to your farm and ate at your table. And it was not clear. And if it was not clear, couldn't you have phoned Brooklyn as you do on other questions? Then I said to Carl, I never gave a transfusion and I never received one. I was disfellowshipped for making my position on blood transfusion known. Those involved in the transfusion received by Joan's grandfather were not even scolded, although the matter was known. The next subhead is being disfellowshipped was probably the second most important day of my life. Now, as I look back over my experience, I feel that being disfellowshipped was probably the second most important day of my life. The most important day was when I dedicated my life to God. Why was being disfellowshipped of such consequence? Because it brought about a break from an organization and system which I could no longer accept. It kept me from wavering back and forth between what I knew to be true and what I was expected to believe as a witness. It also freed me from the pressure of trying to keep dear witness friends whom I liked by outwardly accepting untrue doctrines which I did not like. Without the break of being disfellowshipped, I would have been living a hypocritical life, the frustrating experience of many witnesses today. The statement that many witnesses are living hypocritical lives is not just my opinion, but that which was clearly proven by my own experiences and observations of the witnesses I knew. For example, at least 6 witness friends came to me after my disfellowshipping and said something like this: "Bill, just say that you agree with them on blood transfusion. I don't believe everything that is being taught either." A servant in the congregation said, "Believe anything you want, Bill, but just stay with us." Over the years, a number of witnesses have expressed other mental reservations they had regarding society teachings. On numerous occasions, too detailed and lengthy to relate here, it was obvious to me that witnesses often were not concerned with what Jehovah God would think of an action, but took care to keep from the attention of other witnesses any ideas they might have which were contrary to society policy. Obviously, society approval meant more than the approval of God. Another experience, which is typical of others, reinforces the points made above. A servant in the Kingdom Hall, where I was a member, told me of a study which he had been conducting with a certain family for about 2 years. I had occasion to visit that same family, and I inquired about the brother. They indicated that they had not seen him for many months, and that he was not conducting a study there. This brother conducted his Bible study by simply filling out the time slip. He went into field service on Sundays by going to a local cafe and eating breakfast and reading the newspaper. It was my observation that many time slips were either false or padded. It was and is an easy matter to fill in a slip without putting in the time, especially when service is demanded. Then next time we're going to discuss the next subhead. If we were to leave, where else could we go? I was wanting to link a Ray Franz video where he discusses field service, the only work that counts when you're a Jehovah's Witness.